Hello, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to unbox the book. No surprise, the information will be in the description of this one. But what I wanted to do was before a couple months ago I did a preview of this book. It's the Superman, the Triangle Era Volume 1 Omnibus, and I want to talk a little bit about what makes this this book special. Why? I mean, one, it's special just because we haven't had this era of stories reprinted in. I mean, not that I know of in years. I mean, before I was ever looking for them, they've not been reprinted. There are certain pockets of time or stories that have been well represented in DC reprints, like the rightfully so, but the Superman, the post-crisis John Byrne Superman, those stories have been collected a few different times, and that is the series that kind of reestablished Superman post-crisis for the modern world of the 1980s. But the stories that followed after Byrne left, there was an omnibus, the Superman. There was a book, Exile and Other Stories, and it's a good book that kind of it essentially takes over right after the Byrne stories. But there was that book, and then there was a few years gap, and then there was the Death and Return of Superman, and that one is one that's been reprinted countless times. I own countless versions of those reprints, but it's the stories that right before that were leading up into the Death and Return of Superman, or the stories that never really resurfaced. And I'm glad the DC has rectified that with this book. I guess I can just start opening up and we'll talk a little more. But Superman in the 90s, to many, when you say Superman in the 90s, it's the Death and Return of Superman, and it gets unfairly labeled with a lot of things. The Death and Return of Superman, people claim, oh, it's just a cash grab, it was just greed, it was corporate greed, it was them overprinting things, and what I feel like that does, I mean, the Death and Return of Superman still holds up. I mean, I think it started as a solid story. What does Superman mean? To the DC universe, to the comics industry. At the time, the Superman sales were not setting the world on fire, and it was born out of what is Superman's place in the 90s. You had the anti-heroes, Punisher, Ghost Rider, Image Comics. You had all of that going on, and then there's Superman, and it's like, how does he fit into this? Why does he matter? And that was the basis for the story of killing Superman. And the death of Superman is just one big fight. That's not really the meat of the story. It's what happens after. It's the funeral for a friend, the world without a Superman. That's where the real emotional, what does Superman mean, kicks in. But anyway, that's that part. But I'm just saying, that's a lot of times I think people think of that that era and then just kind of write it off as this gimmick thing that happened, and it gets blamed for the downfall of the comics industry, and rightfully so. There was a lot of speculation involved, and it just kind of launched. It happened before that, but variant covers and gimmick covers and all that kind of stuff that we still see today in the form of countless variant covers and things that take away from, distract from the actual story. So there are many things that I think things that get lost when talking about this era of stories, and it gets blamed for things that have nothing to do with the creators or the stories, and the stories are wonderful. So the Triangle Era is essentially, there were I talked about this in the just a lot of packing peanuts. Yeah, this is gonna be a mess. Hold on a second. I don't want to do this. Okay, the book is out. Packing Peanuts. That was gonna be a mess. Had to take a little break there. But what I was talking about was during that era, they did something really cool. There was there are multiple Superman titles at the time: Adventures of Superman, Action Comics, and Superman. And the stories kind of intertwined. They connected. It was all kind of happening at the same time. So there were individual plot elements that were that would kind of be exclusive to certain titles, but the overall picture of what was going on, it was one story. And then partway through, as they were doing that, they introduced in Superman 51, they introduced a cover icon that was the triangle, and that was it would show you the reading order of the story. So as the Superman comics came out each week, it would be 1991. This is number 1. It was separate from the issue numbering, but it was just a way to show, if you're going to pick up these books, say, if you got your books once a month or whatever, it helped show the reading order of the stories. So this is the book, Superman, the Triangle Era Omnibus Volume 1. And this, super excited to get this one. I was able to get an early copy through so DC is pretty good about sending comp copies to the creators. I mean, I don't know if it'd be comp or part of their compensation for the reprinting of the stories, but they get sent copies of the books. And this was I bought this one from Glenn Whitmore, the colorist, who colored this whole era of Superman stories, and was a big part of helping to tie it all together as one large epic story, because had each issue is different styling, different artist stylings, but the coloring was consistent, and that's key in kind of helping sell the idea that this is one story. So just kind of stretching out the binding a little bit here. I talked about it in the preview video that I did about what exactly is in here, but I want to kind of take a look at I probably will cut and show a top-down view of some of the pages, but it's really exciting to finally get these stories reprinted, and they are some of the best Superman stories that I've ever read. I don't want to downplay John Byrne's Superman stories, because they're the Man of Steel. That's great. That was like established what the basis for what these stories are going to be, and the mythos and whatnot from there. So it's just, I read those after I read most of these stories. So while I love them, I love this stuff so much more. So and again, it's just, it ties to nostalgia. I was at a more impressionable age when I read some of these stories. Especially, I mean, Death and Return of Superman, that's like separate. But I after I was hooked on Death and Return of Superman, I went back and kind of bought some of these issues in back issue bins, and which thankfully they were not very expensive. So there's just a lot of great stuff in this. So, and I've talked a little bit about the eras that have been reprinted, but there's a lot of stuff in this book. So this book, let's see. So I guess I can, maybe I'll cut and do a top-down view. But yeah, let's do that. All right, we'll try this top-down view. See how this works. All right, so there's the book. Actually, do the back of the. That's cool. This image from the Crisis on the Crimson Kryptonite. Yeah. Let's take off the dust jacket to see what's underneath. Oh, that's cool. It's a series of triangles that make up the series of Superman S shields that make up the backdrop. That's really cool. Good old Triangle Era. Appropriate. Now we'll actually take a look at what is on the inside here. So Open it up. Nice John Bogdanov. I always love that image from one of the early Man of Steel issues. Is it 1 or 4? I always forget. There's so many iconic Superman images from this era from those artists. Like, there's Tom Grummett and Dan Jurgens. All right, so take a look at the table of contents. The book starts off with the story Crisis of the Crimson Kryptonite, and that's a story that's not officially part of, doesn't actually have it predates the triangles actually being on the covers, but it's a wonderful starting point because it sets up so much of the status quo of what's going on in the Superman stories after that. It's the story where Lex Luthor dies, spoiler, and because then later in the stories you get the introduction of Lex Luthor the second, Lex Luthor's son. So you kind of that is a key part of understanding these stories. So it makes sense to add that before the actual Superman 51, which is the Mr. Z story. So there's an introduction by Mike Carlin, and there's some of the Crisis of the Crimson Kryptonite, and then it kicks right into the story. Yeah, it's just seeing all this stuff just instantly makes me happy. It's just the era. There's a good old Solder Cola reference. I love seeing those pop up in the pages. Yeah, so there's the Crisis of the Crimson Kryptonite. We'll flip through a little bit. Let's see. A lot of key events during this time. Like this issue is the where Superman Clark reveals to Lois that he is in fact Superman. So that's a key event in the lore of this era. There's great Jerry Ordway. So, yeah, okay. This is a story that I feel like gets overlooked a lot, and it's the time and time again where Superman gets flung through time and just visits different eras, and yeah, it's got a great Booster Gold appearance, and it's just so fun. Like he goes to the 30th century, visits like the Legion, then he gets flung back into like the 40s, 30s, yeah, the 40s. So there it is. There's Solder Cola again. Yeah, it's just, and these are actually some of the stories I talked about it in the video where I did the preview of this. There are some of these issues that are not on the DC Universe Infinite digital subscription, and that's a shame because I mean you're missing key issues of a story. Like, why not just include these? That makes no sense. So anyway, but yeah, the time and time again, I love this issue. It gets flung back in like prehistoric times. Bob McLeod art. It's like the early when Bibbo takes ownership of the Ace of Clubs happens in this omnibus. But another great issue during the time and time again where Superman gets flung back to like Camelot. So some people always loved this Jerry Ordway art in this issue especially. So yeah, anytime you get the demon, that's like super fun. So yeah, that's time and time again. And let's see what else I can check out here. This is so during this time they went from having three ongoing series to adding a fourth, which was Superman Man of Steel, and to do that they kicked it off with each of the series had a double-sized issue, and it's the introduction of Eradicator as a humanoid in humanoid form. So he comes back after of course the Eradicator, the origin of the Eradicator is talked about in the Exile and Other Stories omnibus. But again, also key events to, when you look at what was going on in the Death and Return of Superman and how Eradicator had such a huge role in the post-death era. all of this, it's all set up here. And this is why when I was a teenager, I wanted to read this stuff, because I wanted to learn more about the Eradicator, because I didn't know who he was at the time. So yeah, these were the kind of key issues I went back and revisited. So yeah, I mean, come on. Just such, these stories, they in their purity, they hold up. They're just wonderful Superman stories. And then you get some like just amazing Tom Grummett art. I mean, come on. That's like, his art just screams Superman. So this is part of the War of Gods. War of the Gods, is that what it's? Let's see, was it War of the Gods? Yeah, War of the Gods. Yeah, it was a larger DC crossover that I was not. I mean, I didn't read a whole lot of those stories. I only read the ones that pertain to Superman. But it seemed like they made it fit into what was going on at Superman at the time, but it didn't really pique my interest to go find out what was going on a larger scale. So, but yeah, that stuff's in here. Let's see what else we can flip through kind of quickly and then wrap it up. But oh, this issue is great. Man of Steel #5, The Curse of the Atomic Skull. It's the introduction of this new version of Atomic Skull. But I just love the, like, I don't know if I can, the way that it's laid out. You get this movie that's happening, and then you get the events, because it starts out in a movie theater, and then the movie is playing as the story goes, while the events of Superman fighting the Atomic Skull play along with it. So yeah, it's just, that's a fun issue for sure. And you get some Wave Rider. I think he was introduced to this. It all kind of blends together, but I'm pretty sure he was introduced in this time. I think this might have been the issue where he is introduced. So I could be wrong there. No, this is another fun one. Superman loses his memory. That's this crazy contraption on his head. He loses his memory, and then he ends up hanging out with Mr. Z. So another dinosaur adventure. They get stranded on this island. Blackout, yeah, it's called Blackout. So yeah, that's I always love that image for sure. But there's just so many wonderful Superman images. This is the issue where Superman meets Lex Luthor the second, Lex Luthor Jr. So yeah, so just again, so many fun Superman stories. And then this one last thing I wanted to look at here was any supplemental material in the back, which usually have like sketches and preliminary stuff, covers, like some of the scans of the original art. Let's see, that's another introduction. This is, oh, okay, so this says Roger Stern's introduction to the 1996 Superman Crisis of the Crimson Kryptonite Collected Edition. So, that's the cover for it. And let's see, Casey Carlson's introduction to the 1994 Superman Time and Time Again Collected Edition. That's cool. That's fun stuff. Kind of see like what they were talking about in the time of as they were being reprinted earlier on. So here we go. Some preliminaries by Mike Carlin for the Crisis of the Crimson Kryptonite covers, and then you get the finished Jerry Ordway inked versions. And then there's that Superman 51, which was the official launch of the triangles on the cover of the issues. So it's cool. Some scans of the art. Looks like these are scans of photocopies of the art, which is probably what Jerry had in his possession. Some nice. That's a key splash, but yeah, some Time and Time Again stuff. Yeah, I love seeing this stuff, like in the original scans. But yeah, some prelim stuff. Yeah. Oh man, there's some actual double page spread. That's like I love that Superman image. I mean, I say that a lot because there's so many images. Oh, that's cool. So many images from this era that I was like, oh man, I love that. There's the cover sketch for Man of Steel #1 by John Bogdanov. And, oh, these are always fun to see. Like when they had the Superman summits where they would map out the year, since there were 4 ongoing titles, they had to kind of make sure everything was cohesive to a point. And so they'd have once a year they'd go and the Superman creative team would have their Superman summits and they'd map out what was going on in each issue. So yeah, those are fun. I'll go back through and read some of these tidbits. I bet you there's some fun stuff hidden in there. And then plot outline for Superman 51. Okay, so that's cool. Since this is the official, the kickoff to the Triangle Era issue, it's good to kind of get an example of plot outline. So, and then some closes out with some biographies of the creatives involved. So, yeah, there you go. Okay, so there's a better look at what's on the inside and what makes this what's in the actual contents. But if you want to read or hear more about more in detail of the stories that are in here, I would suggest checking out the other video. I'll put a link to that one in the comments of this video. But I talk about exactly what is in here, what stories, what key what key stories are in this book. But I wanted to, since this is, I just got this one. Let's see. I wanted to show you what having these 2 behemoth books together looks like. Yeah, that's like, these are monster books. But I don't have I don't buy a lot of omnibus books just because of the space it takes to show them. But this one is so key to who I am as a comics reader, that this is one that I needed to have in the collection, have it on the bookshelf. I actually still have my pre-order copy coming, and I'll keep it because I want to support the idea that I want them to do a volume 2, because volume 2 it'll close the gap between the volume 1 and the Death and Return of Superman. So there's still a gap of stories that I would love to see reprinted. I would love to see them continue beyond that, but we'll see. We'll see how sales go. But it's one of the reasons why I'm keeping my pre-order, because this one didn't really count because it went to Glenn, which I'm happy to support him as well, to buy that from him, because it's nice that DC sends these comp copies, but they're also, can you imagine having like multiples of these. I don't know how many they get, but a handful of them. Get that out of his house. So yeah, so I'd love to be able to have this volume 1, a volume 2, and then the Death and Return of Superman, which if we get those 3, I'll be very happy. If we can get beyond there, like a volume 4, which volume 4 would be then right after the Return of Superman, I'd be all about that. But hopefully we get at least volume 2 of this. So anyway, thank you for watching this one, and I will see you soon.